Okie doke. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to see you one more time after the induction session. So, what are we going to do today? According to the schedule, let's see the schedule and the learning guide. According to the learning guide, today, not today, but this week, we are going to study topics that are going to help us to develop the the test in level 5. So that's why we are going to have two sessions, today and tomorrow, in order to be able to see some topics we are going to uh, see, we're going to take into account to present the test. So, what are we going to study? In fact, not study because we already know this information, but we are going to check some information or going to remember things about simple present tense, more specifically verb to be, and the second part of the simple present tense, the applicability of activities like enjoy, believe, detest, and so on. And tomorrow we're going to study adjectives. This is level 2. So we're going to do a recap of comparative and superlative adjectives. This is for tomorrow, not for today, but this is what we are going to see in the test. So the test is going to evaluate, especially mainly, topics about simple present tense. Therefore, according to the learning guide, so there is nothing much to say about the test, right? Because it's a test, so there's nothing to take into account. But um, yeah, there's nothing else to mention about this. So the question here is, where can we find the link for the test? So if we go to Sajuna, right? So we log in Sajuna, we're going to find a link in our level. So let's go to English Task Work level 5. And in that level, we're going to find a link called Actividades de Aprendizaje. Once we open Actividades de Aprendizaje, we are going to find the link called Test English Task Work 5, Reading and Listening. And here we're going to click in Preview Quiz, and we are going to be able to take the test. That's it. Everything you need to know about where can we find the test is that. So let's begin with the topics. What are we going to study? What are we going to see in the test? Once again, this is something you have already studied in level 1, level 2, and maybe level 3. So this is not going to be difficult because you have already studied this. The first topic is simple present tense. Let's remember that with simple present tense for methodology, not for any other reason, all just for methodology, simple present tense is divided into parts. In verb to be on the first hand, and the management of other verbs on the second hand. Verbs like study, create, enjoy, both regular and irregular verbs. So, right? So let's focus first on the first hand, on the verb to be. According to this, the verb to be is used for the same reasons we use verb to be in Spanish. So the applicability is to talk about locations. For example, we are in Brazil. We are not in China, in Beijing, right? This is a location. To talk about age, I always see this mistake, especially with level 1 and level 2, especially, but not only there, that people, like in Spanish, they say, I have 21 years old. And no, this is a wrong translation because with verb to in English, we use the verb to be to talk about the age. I am 25 years old. Mariana is 17 years old. We are young, for example, because in terms of age, we are not talking just about the number, but also the stage of life we are living. We are teenagers, adults, toddlers, babies, and so on, because age is not focused only in numbers. It's mainly numbers, of course, but not only that. We can use verb to be to talk about marital status. For example, I'm engaged, he is single, we are married, and so on. To talk about relationships, the kind of relationships we can have. So, brothers, sisters, friends, best friends, and so on. We can talk about emotions, like in Spanish, she's sad, Mariana is angry, we are happy, they are tired, and so on. So verb to be. To talk about physical appearance can change too. For example, a person can be handsome today because he has handsome is used for men and beautiful for women. Just remember, just say to remind you this. Uh, can be handsome today because he has had a haircut and has taken a shower and is wearing a good a, a, a good dress, right? Is wearing a suit. In this case, is wearing a suit, but maybe in the morning was not like that. So appearance can change very quickly. To talk about personality, how is somebody in terms of behavior? Because appearance is physical appearance, what we can see with our eyes, right? And to talk about personality is what we can feel in terms of behavior. How is this person behaving? Like he's I don't know, he's nice, he's punctual, that person is charismatic, and so on. So this is something that we cannot see, but we feel because we experience this kind of behavior on the other person, right? We can also use it for to talk about time. So it is 9:15 p.m. Let's pause that. And to talk about occupations, we are engineers, they are architects, we are students, and so on, right? And finally, to talk about nationalities. Mariana is Colombian. We are Peruvian. She is from Brazil, right? So these are possibilities to talk about verb to be. All of them are mentioned. The same reasons why we study verb to be in Spanish are the same reasons why we study verb to be in English. So there is this is very similar. The only difference between Spanish and English is that in English we use verb to be to talk about age, and in Spanish we use the verb to have. This is the only difference between Spanish and English in terms of applicability. So this is not very complex, I guess. Somebody arrived, so give me a sec. Yeah. So hello, Antonia. Okay, let's return. So in the test, we're going to see topics about verb to be, and we mentioned that verb to be is used for the same reasons in English, is used for the same reasons we use it in Spanish. So the only difference that is that in English we use verb to be to talk about age, and in Spanish is we use verb to have. So this is the main difference. We also know from level 1 that verb to be can be conjugated in 3 different ways: am, is, and are. If we are talking about plurals, they use the verb to be as are. If it's a man, a woman, or an animal who is performing an action, the verb to be is going to be is. And if I am alone by myself, it's going to be am. And we also know from level 1 that the organization of verb to be is pretty similar to the organization of Spanish in Spanish. In Spanish, we say, for example, yo estoy triste. I am sad. So the organization is exactly the same, pretty much the same. The same, we can say, we are lawyers. Nosotros somos abogados. The organization is exactly the same. So the conjugation is obviously different, but the context is the same. But the C? The C is the context. What is the context? Okay, when we talk about nationalities, when we could talk about a personality, when we talk about relationships, and so on. Mariana es mi tía. Mariana is my aunt, for example, right? This is the context. What do we do in Spanish to say that something is not correct? Marcos no es mi tío. Marcos is not my uncle. The similarity between Spanish and English is huge because we add the word no or not in English, right? The difference is that not is going to be used after the verb to be, and the contraction, if we want to use a contraction, is am not, isn't, is not, though both possibilities, aren't or are not, or are not. Uh, all of them are possible for the conjugation for we, you, and they. So we aren't, we're not, we are not. We are not what? Neighbors. Nosotros no somos vecinos. We are not neighbors, for example. Christian isn't, Christian is not, Christian is not a toddler. Christian no es un niño chiquitico, ¿no? For example. So this is an example. The organization is pretty much the same. I'm doing this because very quickly because you have already studied this topic in level 1. So you already know how this works, right? And finally, we know from verb to be that to create questions, yes, no questions, like in Spanish, we switch the words. We say, for example, in Spanish, ¿está usted soltero? ¿Están ustedes casados? ¿Es ella su hermana? Right? We use the verb to be at the beginning. Is she your sister? Are you married? Right? So we use the verb to be at the beginning of the question, like in Spanish. And of course, if we want to mention something bigger, we don't want just a yes no answer, we could say who, where, when, why, how often, and so on. Something you have already studied in level 1, I guess. Hello, Antonia. And hello, Dennis. Okay, let's return. So, the similarities between Spanish and English are huge. Therefore, if you understand how Spanish works, verb to be is going to be pretty easy for you. I'm pretty sure of this. So, but just in case, we're going to make some exercises of verb to be, and the exercise we are going to take into account is a game in quizzes. Therefore, I'm going to give you the link in the chat for you to join to quizzes. Give me a sec. Where are you? Where are you? Oh, yes, here you are. So to join to the game, you just click in the link or open a new window, type joinmyquiz.com and type this number, 289942. So at the end of the game, I'll give you feedback if required, of course, because if you get a perfect score, it's not going to be needed to for me to give you feedback. So pretty obvious, right? I guess you will have to create an account. I think so. I guess. But the accounts in Quizzes and Kahoot are free, so you don't have to pay anything. Don't worry for that. I'll give you some time so you can be able to join to the game. Yes, press start, please. You're absolutely right, darling. I'll start the game as soon as most of you or all of you join to the game. Meanwhile, because the game is a little long, just a little long, I'll start at 6:25, and if you're not in, you can still join to the game meanwhile we are playing. Also, I'll stop the game at 6:30 because 5 minutes is more than enough to complete the game, right? And especially because we need to advance in another topics, especially. Okay, let's go. Good luck. Break a leg. Okay, you're so quick. Good. So let's see. Let's see the accuracy. You got a 73% of accuracy, 11 questions correct over 15. So let's see the informs. I'm going to give you feedback of the questions that had some problems for you. So in this case, what are your nationality? In this case, the nationality is singular, so that's why we say what is your nationality, or what nationality are you is the other option. Okay, let's continue. Uh, she has 21 years old. This is not correct because remember that in with verb to be, we talk about the age. In Spanish, we use the verb to have, but in English, we use the verb to be. She is 21 or she is 21 years old. We are 15 years old. They are 17 years old, and so on. We never use the verb to have. We always use the verb to be to talk about age. Your father, who is your father? Your father is he, like Luke, I'm your father. So, because we're talking about a man in this case, The verb to be used for a man, a singular masculine figure. It could be a singular feminine figure or an animal too. When we talk about third person of singulars, we always use the verb to be conjugated as is. Is he a doctor? Is your father a doctor? If we were talking about parents, I mean your father and your mother, we could use are. Are your parents doctors? And let's continue. They are, okay, what nationality are they? They are Russian, they are from Russia. For practicity, both are correct. Both are correct. But if we want to be thorough, estrictos, right? We could nationality means colombiano, mexicano, italiano, francés, French, Italian, Belgium, Russian, and so on. That's why we use this. If we were asking where are you from, we could answer they are from Russia. Where are they from? Right? Because one thing is to mention the nationality, nacionalidad, colombiano, francés, alemán, and so on. And other thing is to say de donde es usted, right? Because when we talk, when we say where are you from, we are talking about not the nationality, but about the country, right? Once again, for practicity, both are correct. But if we want to be very thorough, very specific, very punctual, this is the real answer. They are Russian. Okay, the other questions are correct, so let's advance. Congratulations, Anna. You did an excellent job. Okay, this is the first part you're going to see in test. But on the second hand, we are going to study how other verbs behave. Verbs like work, play, enjoy, detest, believe, create, amaze, and so on. So, like in Spanish, we are going to have affirmative sentences, negative sentences, and questions. And like in Spanish, to mention that something is true, we need a person or a group of people, I, we, they, you, and so on, who are going to perform actions. We create something. They believe in God. She studies French and so on, right? We need a person who performs an action. We run. They play, right? That's it. But what's the issue with this? The issue is that if the activity is performed by a woman, Mariana, let's suppose, a man, Santiago, let's suppose, or an animal, it could be more than an animal, but let's say for practicity, let's say that it's just an animal. If a man, a woman, or an animal perform an action, the action is going to be modified. It's similar to Spanish because in Spanish we say yo trabajo, tú trabajas, él trabaja, nosotros trabajamos, ellos trabajan, vosotros trabajáis, ¿cierto? So the verb changes according to the person. In English, it's going to be similar. It's going to change, but only in for three different people, not like in Spanish. For a man, for a woman, and an animal. What are we going to do? As you know, a verb is an action. And in Spanish, we can notice that we are in front of an action or a verb when this activity ends in ar, er, ir, correr, reír, saltar, olvidar, pensar, imaginar, and so on. So in English, when this action ends in y and it's preceded by a consonant, F, D, S, T, whatever, this y is going to change by IES. This is the difference. We study versus Esteban or he studies. The verb only changes when the action is performed by a woman, animal, or a man. That's it. First change. Second change. If the activity ends on O, SH, CH, X, or double S, then the verb is going to be modified by adding ES. Once again, if the action is performed by Pedro, Camila, or Rex, right, the dog. Examples with S. I kiss versus Andrea kisses. Example 2 with X. They fix versus he fixes. And it's important to use the vowel here because if we don't mention it or we don't write it, right, this it's going to sound like fix, kiss, right? The conjugation gets lost. That's why the sound of the vowel and typing of the vowel, the E, it's important because if we don't do it, we are not going to we are not going to understand that we are modifying the verb, right? Okay, with CH, we watch TV versus Daniela watches TV. We cannot say Daniela watches, right? The conjugation gets lost. CH, I wash my clothes versus Fernando washes his clothes, right? And finally, with O, we go to bed, Camila goes to bed, right? Second situation, second change. And the third change, if our verb doesn't follow any of these endings, Y, S, CH, and so on, then the verb is going to be modified by adding S. When? Only in affirmative sentences, not negative sentences, not questions, because negative sentences and questions have a different behavior. So what's going to happen with negative sentences and with questions? What's going to happen is this. We are going to use an auxiliary verb that's going to mention, that's going to tell us if we are in front of a negative sentence or, in front of a sentence in present tense or in past tense, or in future. That's the point of an auxiliary verb, to mention if we are using a perfect tense, in present, in past, in future, if it's in a passive voice, in active voice, and so on, in a simple tense and so on. So in this case, we're going to use the verb to do as an auxiliary verb, and it could also be does. When are we going to use do? We're going to use do for all plural subjects. And I do, we do, they do, or we do. And we are going to use does for a man, for a woman, for an animal. This exactly the same people we're going to take into account when we are using affirmative sentences, because those guys, Fernando, Cristina, and Rex, are going to modify the verb. The same guys are going to use the auxiliary verb conjugated as does in negative sentences and in questions. What else can we mention about this? We can mention that the main verb is never going to change because that's why we have the auxiliary verb, right? And because we are talking about negative sentences, we need to mention something that's negative, that's not true. And the word, like in verb to be, is going to be not. I do not, she does not. But does not what? Play soccer, play video games, go to the mountains, practices hiking, watch TV, whatever, because we are going to need a verb, right? Example, we do not play soccer. She does not go to the gym every day, for example, right? Like in Spanish, we need a word not to mention that something is not real, it's not possible. And like verb to be, similarly to verb to be, we're going to use the same auxiliary verb to create a question. So we are using the verb to do or does, depending on the situation, at the beginning of the question to create the question, of course. Do you like playing soccer? Does she live in New York? I don't know. Once again, the main verb does not change. So this is the structure of simple present tense, something you have already studied in level 1, level 3, I guess, and I think level 2 at the same time. I guess, I'm not really sure, I don't remember, but I'm just reminding you something that you already know. I forgot to mention something. Why are we studying this? With verb to be, we said, okay, we are studying verb to be to talk about location, relationships, appearance, physical appearance, occupations, and so on. But why are we studying the second hand of the simple present tense, the second part? It's because we are mentioning, or we are going to use simple present tense to mention things that are going to be true in the long term. So things that are going to be permanent, mainly. For example, something is permanent is that we live in Colombia, right? So it's if we already have a family here, if we already have a business here, if we have our relatives and friends here in Colombia, it's going to be difficult, not impossible, but it's going to be difficult, especially for feelings and emotions and so on, to say, okay, I'm going to apply for a citizenship in Canada. You can, of course, but it's going to be a little harder if you get older and older and older, because you will prefer to stay here in a specific place, right? This is something permanent. What else is permanent? A repeated action. For example, if you always wake up at 4:50 a.m. to, I don't know, to prepare your food, I mean your lunch and your dinner, to go to your job, it's going to be difficult for you not to wake up always at 4:50 a.m., right? Even on Saturdays, even on Sundays, even when you don't have to wake up early, because this is a habit, and you know that habits or repeated actions are difficult to change, are difficult to modify. It's possible to modify them, of course, but are a little difficult to do it, right? What else is part of of a permanent situation? An opinion, a hobby, a preference. If you prefer to stay at home on Saturdays watching Netflix with your couple instead of going to dance, and this is something you love to do and you enjoy this activity, it's going to be difficult for you to say, okay, I don't want to stay here and be watching Netflix and to relax. I prefer to go to a party. It's going to be difficult. I'm not saying that you cannot do it, but your habits and your hobbies and your opinions are going to be difficult to be modified, right? And what else is permanent? A general truth, something that is real, it's true, it's a fact, here in Brazil, in China, in Russia, in Bolivia, in Afghanistan, and so on. Like, for example, that the earth revolves around the sun. This is true. This is a fact. So it's not going to change easily, right? So, because we already know that. And fine, so all of these are permanent situations. This is the first topic. And the second situation, why we study simple present tense, is to predict the future. More precisely, to talk about schedules. More specifically, something that and I say to talk about events that are in our agenda. And these events don't depend on us, depend on somebody else or on something else. If we don't go to this class, to this concert, to this forum or whatever, this event is going to continue, is going to be performed, even though if we are not there. So we're predicting the future that on next week, let's suppose, next week, Millonarios is going to play against, I don't know, Deportes Tolima. So this is going to happen in the future, next Sunday, let's suppose. and we cannot do anything to change this event. So we know that this is going to happen, right, in the future, but this is a fact, and this doesn't depend on us. So this is why we study simple present tense, something that we have already studied before, but I want you to remember it. Okay, let's go with a couple of games. I think we have some time to play them. So let's begin with this test, with this exercise. If I see that you are good enough to solve the questions, yeah, 3 minutes is more than enough. Yeah, we're going to play two games. The first one is just warming up, 3 minutes. It's going to be very easy. And we are going to play another game. It's going to be related to speaking. I'm going to give you the link in a moment, but before, let's go to Kahoot. I'll start the game in 1 minute, ¿vale? 6:48. You don't have to create a question, you just need to click in the link. Okay, so what you have to do is answer correctly the questions, obviously, and as soon as you complete 3 correct questions, you will have to collect all the diamonds, and you will have to avoid everything else, bones, cans, fish, and so on. Okay, so break a leg. You have 3 minutes. Remember, just collect the diamonds, nothing else. Solo coleccionen los diamantes, nada más. Okay, look, that's it. So at the end of the game, third place for Dennis, second place for Antonia, and the first place is for Anna. Congratulations. Okay, look. So thank you, Quiz Kahoot, for the game number one. Okay, let's continue with the activity. So we already know how simple present tense works, and there's no more explanation of this. So I'm going to play something quickly with you, and this quick activity is this. So I'm going to open a one category for one score for each category, sorry, and you will have to tell me what's the correct answer. For example, in affirmative sentence, we need to conjugate the verb play for an. So if we remember grammar, we know that when a woman is performing an action in simple present tense, in affirmative sentence, right? This action is going to be modified. So because it ends in Y, we have an alarm because we know that when a verb ends in Y, we need to be careful that perhaps we will have to modify this verb. So before the Y, is there a consonant? No, there is a vowel. Therefore, we cannot change the Y for IES. What do we do then? We add the letter S and place the guitar, right? This is for affirmative. For negative, we have to modify this sentence and to create a negative sentence. This is correct. So how can we transform this sentence into a negative sentence? In this case, we know that negative sentences use the auxiliary verb do not or does not. Because we are talking about you, the auxiliary verb is not going to be does not, because does not is used with man, woman, animal. We are going to use do. Therefore, the negative sentence could be you do not or you don't, that's exactly the same, get up at 7 o'clock, right? What about questions? We need to create a question. We know that with questions, we need to add the auxiliary verb do or does before the subject, before the person. In this case, what do we have to say? What time do you or what time does you go to bed? Well, the answer is what time do you go to bed, right? Because the conjugation for you is do. Correct or incorrect? We have to say if this is correct or no. In this case, Lucas plays tennis in the evenings. So we need to know, we need to focus on the verb. Is the verb correctly written or no? Let's see, let's go back to the grammar. Let's remember that when we have affirmative sentences, when the action is performed by a woman, a man, or an animal, the verb is going to be modified. That's true. So this is modified, yes. But is correctly modified? The question is this. So let's see. We know that when the verb ends in Y, and before of the Y there is a consonant, we add IES. So this is not correct. Also, we know that before the Y there is a vowel, so we don't add IES. Instead, we just add the letter S. Therefore, Lucas plays tennis in the evening, not Lucas plays, right? And to answer the question, okay, this is not, we are not going to do this because this is very subjective. Because in this case, how often do you send emails? Maybe I do it every 3 weeks, and perhaps you do it every single day, every 3 hours, and this is possible. So there isn't a wrong there isn't a wrong answer. There aren't wrong answers because they are going to depend on the context. Okay. I'm going to give you the link because I'm pretty sure we are not going to have time to answer them. I'm pretty sure of that. I'm sorry for this. So I'm sharing with you the link for you to complete it at home. And I'm going to mention, let's play another game. And I'm going to mention a strategy you can use to improve your listening skills, especially your listening skills. And let's go here. Oh my god, it's not here. It's here. Jeez. Because there are only 10 questions, we are going to do it at the same time. I mean, question by question. Okay, Halloween mode. Let's begin. How many items should I choose in the previous game? All of them for you, not for me, but for you. Okay. So the idea is for you to reply all of them for you. Yes, yeah, all of them. So you can practice for yourself. So the more you practice, the more you are going to learn. How do you know what are the answers? By typing in your computer, typing the keyboard spacebar, right? And to get so that's how you're going to get the answer. And if you click in the in escape, you're going to open a new question. I wanted to do it with you at the same time, this Jeopardy game, but we are not going to have time, so that's why I'm not. I prefer to share it with you. Vale? Okay, let's go. I'll start now. Good luck. Reorder to create a question or a sentence. The students' museum at the R. So you will have to drag, arrastrar, and drop, soltar. Are the students at the museum? Because this is a question, let's remember that in simple present tense we have verb to be and the management of other verbs. So this is the question of verb to be. Are you at home? ¿Está usted en casa? Are the students at the museum? ¿Están los estudiantes en el museo? It's similar to Spanish, right? You have to reorganize the sentence. Okay, let's go with question number 2. He does why laugh. Why does he laugh? Great. ¿Por qué se ríe? Number three. Question number three. Is Actor Who this? That's Marlon Brando, I guess. Who is this actor? Okay. Question of verb to be. Number four. Create a negative sentence. Not we ready are. This is a verb to be question, a verb to be sentence. We aren't or we are not ready. No estamos listos, like in Spanish. Create an affirmative sentence now. There they wash car. They wash their car, like in Spanish. Ellos lavan su carro. They wash their car, right? Similar to Spanish in terms of organization, of course. Number six. Shakespeare, do you know? Do you know Shakespeare? Good. Don't we talk anymore? We do not talk anymore. Okay. And the last question number 8. 5. This is not a. This isn't a pipe. Instead of saying Mariana, Christian, or the dog, we we change the subject for this pronoun. This isn't a pipe. Number 9. The sea, my house, near is. Verb to be. My house is near the sea. Mi casa está cerca del mar. Very similar to Spanish, right? In terms of organization, of course. And question number 10, last question. Doesn't alcohol like she? She does not or she doesn't like alcohol. Okay, so at the end of the game, third place is for no one because there is not a third participant. Second place, This is for 994302, and the first place is for Ana Ciro. Congratulations! Okay, thank you, Kahoot, so much for your support. And I'm going to mention the last topic because we have no more time for the test. So I'm sharing with you a link called, wait a minute, where is it? 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 Yeah, here you are. A web page called VO Screen. I always recommend this web page because with this web page you are going to be able to see extracts, fragments, parts, short clips of series of movies or commercials, and here you are going to be able to practice your listening and your speaking skills. For example, if you want to study, I don't know, imperatives, right? You can click in imperatives, and the idea.
Stop doing that. I'm not doing anything.
And the idea is to listen to the script and to repeat what they are saying in the same tone of voice. So, for example, she says, "Stop doing that," and the other girl says, "I'm not doing anything." So, stop doing that. I'm not doing anything.
Stop doing that. I'm not doing anything.
These kind of clips are going to be specially used for you in the test for questions where you are going to have listening to listen to an audio and yes to an audio, or for activity number 4 where you will have to present a video presentation. So in this case, you're practicing you're improving your listening skills and your speaking skills. So let's suppose you don't want to practice imperatives. You want to practice, I don't know, something about simple present tense, something that you're going to see in the test.
Money does not make me happy.
For example, he says, money does not make me happy. El dinero no me hace feliz. So, money does not make me happy. The idea is to listen what he says and to repeat it, right? So the more you do it, the better it's going to be for you in order for you to improve your pronunciation and your listening skills, of course.
You look funny.
Grrr, you look funny. Once again.
You look funny.
Grrr, you look funny, right? So once again, the idea is for you to improve your listening skills and your speaking skills with this web page. You will have to create an account, right? Like me, I have an account, but the account is free. Therefore, you will not have to pay anything for this. Vale? So this is all for today's lesson. We are going to meet again tomorrow, same time, same link, I guess. If it's not the same link, please check the announcements, and that will be all. If you have any questions, they are welcome. If you have no questions, I will meet you again tomorrow. I guess tomorrow. So let's see for Anna. What's she typing? Oh yes, tomorrow 6 p.m. Okay, thank you for coming and good night. Take care, ladies. See you next time. Bye bye.